Hello everyone, what is up? It's Outlaw Studios, and in today's video, I am going to be teaching you guys how to factor using completing the square. But before we begin, make sure to like this video if you found it helpful, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more math videos soon to come. But anyways, with all that being said and done, first, before we get into practicing completing the square, we first need to learn the 8 steps in order to complete the square. So anyways, the 8 steps, which excuse about handwriting, first, just like with pretty much any other factoring problem, you want to make sure the right side is equal to 0 and that your leading coefficient is equal to 1. Now, really quickly, in case you don't know what a leading coefficient is, first we have to look at our trinomial formula, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. The LC is this right here. It is the a. It is the number before the x squared. So that is what I mean by leading coefficient. And then from here is where the steps get interesting for completing the square. From here, you need to move c to the right side of the equal sign. And then from here, you're going to add what I like to call blanks, which I know at first this may seem confusing and a little weird, which this is the kind of the interesting thing about completing the square, but I promise it'll make sense and I'll explain it better later. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to add 2 blank spots to both sides of the equals side. Of the equation. So one on the left side of the equation to replace c, and then one on the right. And then finally, for 5th, you're going to want to fill in those blanks using the formula b over 2 in parentheses squared. And then from here, you want to factor the left side once you get that number. And then after you factor the left side, something you guys should actually note right now about completing the square is that when you factor the left side, it's always going to equal an answer squared. So that's just something you guys might want to write down, is that your answer for completing the square when you factor the left side should always be a number squared, which if it isn't, you did a step wrong. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. But then after this, you're going to square root since your answer should be squared. And then from here, just like with any factoring problem, you're going to solve for x. But anyways, let's take a look at our first problem, which is x squared minus 4x minus 32 is equal to 0. So automatically, we can look and we can see that the right side of the equal side is equal to 0 and that the leading coefficient is equal to 1. Which, by the way, just in case you forgot, how my math teacher liked to explain it is that whenever you see a variable by itself, there's what she liked to call an invisible 1 multiplying it. So that's just a way to remember that that's the leading coefficient equal to 1. But anyways, so then from here, using your steps we just wrote down, you're going to move c to the right. So you're going to want to add 32 to both sides. And you're going to get x squared minus 4x. But while you're rewriting the problem, you should go ahead and do step number 5 and add your blanks. So you're going to add a blank to replace c. And then on this side, you're going to have 32 plus another blank since you need 2 blanks on each side. And then from here, we're going to use the formula b over 2 in parentheses squared to solve for the blanks. Now, something I want to quickly point out really quick, guys, is that instead of just typing this in your calculator and getting the answer straight, it's actually a way smarter idea to solve the inside first, b over 2 first, and then square it to get your answer for the blanks, which I know it might not make sense right now, but I promise it'll make sense in literally the next step, I think. But anyway, so you're going to look in this equation. The b is negative 4 over 2, which negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2 squared. And that's going to give you your final answer of 4. So you're going to fill 4 into the blanks. And then from here, you're just going to factor the left side. But however, instead of having to do all the difficult mental math of trying to think in your head all the multiples of 4 and what could add up to negative 4 and multiply to 4, you actually don't need to do that at all, because fun fact, But the way to solve for the multiples of, but the way to find what two numbers factor the left side, all you have to do is just do b divided by 2, which if you plug it back into the formula, -4/2, that will give you -2. So you can go ahead and write x minus 2 squared. And in case you don't believe me, well, let's check. -2 plus -2 equals -4, and -2 times -2 equals 4. So guys, what makes completing the square one of my favorite ways of factoring is because there's really not a lot of mental math involved. It's just simple, like, calculator work of, like, plugging things into a calculator. And of course, guys, I know right now, like this factoring of the left side was pretty easy since they were nice, easy whole numbers. But I promise you guys, once you start doing factoring with like fractions and like imaginary numbers, then that is when you're going to want to use completing the square instead of like something like the AC method. Because in here, you don't have to do any mental math to try to like figure out what the two multiples are of like fractions and stuff like that. When instead, you can just do b divided by 2. But anyways, we're going to now simplify the right side. 36 square root each side, and that is going to give you x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus, since we took the square root, of 6. And then from here, we're just going to simply solve for x by making two equations. We're going to do x minus 2 is equal to positive 6, and then x minus 2 is equal to negative 6, and add the 2 on both sides, and your final answer is going to be x is equal to 8 and -4, which I know I'm kind of running out of room right here, but hopefully you can kind of tell where the answer is. So yeah, your two answers are going to be x is equal to 8 and x is equal to -4. Anyways, our next practice problem is going to be 2x squared plus 4x plus 3 is equal to 1. So automatically you can probably tell that you can look and see that the right side is not equal to 0, and in order to make it equal to 0, you are going to have to subtract 1 on each side. So you're going to rewrite it as 2x squared plus 4x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then from here, you can notice that the leading coefficient is not equal to 1. It is equal to 2. And to get rid of the leading coefficient, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to divide the entire left side and the right side by the leading coefficient, which in this problem was 2. So after that, you're going to rewrite it as x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. And then from here, you can go ahead and move c over to the other side, and you can add in your blank. So you're going to get x squared plus 2x plus blank is equal to -1 plus blank. So anyways, from here to fill in the blank, you're going to use the formula b over 2 squared. So first, we got to look, and the b in this problem is actually going to be 2, which really quickly, something I want to explain to you guys is that the most common mistake I see students make is that they actually like to go back to the original problem and they plug in the numbers from there. So they would plug in like 4 divided by 2 squared. But just to let you guys know, the reason why you can't use this 4 here is because this isn't a true completing the square problem yet. And the reason why is because the right side's not equal to 0 and the leading coefficient is not equal to 1. And so because of that, the reason why you're not able to use this plus 4 over here is because this equation hasn't been factored enough yet for you to get a true b in the trinomial formula, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And so because of that, if you ever have an equation like this, you're going to obviously make the right side equal to 0, and then make the leading coefficient equal to 1. And then, finally, once you have both of those conditions, and both those conditions are met, then you can use that b number to fill in the blank. But so anyways, going back to the problem, we have 2 over 2 squared, Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. So you're going to plug 1 into both sides of the equation. And then from here, you're just going to simply factor it out, which I ran out of room. So let me just quickly rewrite everything over here. So anyways, to factor everything out, again, you're just going to simply use the formula b divided by 2. Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so you're going to get x plus 1 squared is equal to 0. You're going to square root both sides, and you're going to get x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 0. But obviously, since the number is 0, the pluses and minus don't matter because whether it's a positive or negative 0, your answer is still going to be the same. So from here, you can just minus 1 on both sides, and your final answer is going to be x is equal to negative 1. And finally, we're going to get to our final problem, 9x squared minus 12x plus 9 is equal to 0. So the first thing we're going to look at is that the right side's equal to 0, which is good. But then, however, the leading coefficient isn't equal to 1. So again, to get rid of the leading coefficient, we're going to divide the entire left side and the entire right side divided by 9. So 9 divided by 9 is 1. So x squared is minus a negative 12 over 9 is equal to, simplified as negative 4 over 3x plus 9 divided by 9 is 1 is equal to 0. And then we are going to move c over, and we are going to add our blanks. So we're going to get x squared minus 4 over 3x plus blank is equal to negative 1 plus blank. And then from here, in order to fill our blank, we're going to again use the formula b divided by 2 squared. So we are going to do negative 4 over 3 squared. And first, negative 4 divided by 3 divided by 2 is going to give us a negative 2/3. And then a negative 2/3 is going to give us a positive 4/9. So we're going to plug 4/9 into the equation. And then finally, we are going to factor the left side, which again, we don't even have to do any math for that. And again, guys, this right here is actually what makes completing the square one of my favorite versions of factoring, and that is because, let's be honest here, guys, it would be nearly impossible to use the AC method here. And the reason why is because with all these difficult fractions, it would take you literally years to try to find multiples that could add to negative 4/3 and then multiply to 4/9. So what makes completing the square nice is that you don't have to do any math at all because you have your math over here. You already have your b divided by 2, which is equal to a negative 2/3. So we're actually going to plug that in, and we are going to simplify the right side, which negative 1 plus 4/9 is a negative 5/9. And then from here, we are going to square root each side, which I'm going to move over here. So the square root of x minus 2/3 squared is equal to, what was it, negative 5/9? Yep, that's right. Anyways, the square root of x minus 2/3 squared is obviously x minus 2/3. But then, however, to solve this, just in case you need a reminder, to solve the square root of fractions, you're going to just simply square root the numerator and the denominator. So the square root of negative 5 over the square root of 9. And the square root of negative 5 is equal to imaginary number times 5 over the square root of 9 is 3. And then from here, you're just going to simply solve for x by adding 2/3 to both sides. And of course, I forgot to mention this, but this equation right here is positive or negative since we took a square root. And so that means you are going to have two different equations. You're going to have x is equal to 2/3 plus I times square root of 5 over 3, and x is equal to 2/3 minus I times the square root of 5 over 3. But however, so just to let you guys know, this is an acceptable answer right here. But however, guys, something I want to quickly point out is that just in case your teacher's kind of a stickler and she wants you to write your final answer in rectangular form, which, by the way, in case you guys don't know, rectangular form is basically the formula for a complex number where you have a, which is the real number, plus bi, which is the imaginary number. In case your teacher's kind of a stickler for that and she wants you to have your final answer in rectangular form, then for this, all you'll have to do is just simply move the I out, and instead you'll rewrite your answer as 2/3 plus the square root of 5 over 3 times I in the back. And it's the same thing for the bottom. 2/3 minus the square root of 5 over 3 times I. So again, it really just depends on who your teacher is. My teacher never cared if our answer was in rectangular form or not. But just in case yours is, that is the final answer in rectangular form. But anyways, that is actually the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel if you found this video interesting, helpful, and make sure to comment down below what you guys liked about it, or if you guys are still confused, or any topics you want me to cover next, and I will try to get back to you guys. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.